there. So how do you go about structuring your days so that you can do all of these things?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I'm not where I want to be.
Welcome to the Stephen Lee Thomas Show, where we provide expert advice for real estate entrepreneurs. And I'm your host, Stephen Lee Thomas. And it wasn't that long ago that I was navigating the challenges of real estate investing, learning from my mistakes, and building the business I have today. I created this show to give you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to help you do the same. Each week, we bring you in-depth discussions with industry leaders and professionals who share their knowledge and practical tips. So sit back, take notes, and let's dive into today's episode. All right, my guest today is $13 million in assets under management. It's a 133 unit in Arlington, Texas. He just recently closed on him and his partners. What's amazing about that is he did it and he's a full-time W-2 employee and he's able to go out and purchase a big apartment complex like that. Today's guest is Eddie Esparza. Eddie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for having me here. Truly blessed and honored.
Awesome, man. Well, you and I have chatted a number of times before, and I've been on your webinar. You guys are super active in the space. I keep seeing, your live show up on Instagram. And I thought, what better person to come to the show? And I really want to talk about how you're able to balance your work life, really. I mean, you kind of have work, right? We were talking before the show, and you said I got full-time, my W-2 job, and I'm a full-time real estate investor. But it's very achievable. It's very attainable. And I think it's very relatable to a lot of people who either want to get into the space or curious, how do I get into the space and actually do all that? So I'd love to spend some time getting to know a little bit about you, your background, and how you're able to manage that today. So you started a group, Epic Property Ventures. That's the name of your company, right? So tell
Correct.
us a little bit about your company, what you guys do, and how you got started.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll share a little information about me and how I kind of got up to this point. I've been in real estate for nearly 10 years.
Okay.
Mainly started off where I was born and raised in Chicago with residential. And I just really kind of learned the ropes through working with my father. So he owned properties. As a young kid, he'd kind of have me come in and break down drywall. And that was fun for me at the time. Once I got older, I started kind of helping put up the drywall, painting, plumbing, all that stuff. So
Hmm.
that's where a lot of my passion really grew. So I've always had multiple jobs or a 9 to 5, and I say this really changed for me as far as a residential game. Um, it really changed for me around COVID time. So when everything kind of took a pause,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then everything skyrocketed, and there was so much competition that for me it was, how am I going to get another property under my belt? There's just so much competition. There was investors, there's first time home buyers, there's other people just wanting to get their second, third, fourth, fifth. And I said, how about I just go bigger? How about if I
Okay.
just get to a point where I don't have to compete with more of the emotional buyer or the first time home purchaser. So I started kind of doing a little bit of research. I went on a number of different websites, listened to podcasts, audiobooks, and then came across a couple ads, went to a couple webinars, and then ultimately signed up for a mastermind. For people that don't know what that is, it's essentially a group of people that think of it as a course or a coaching program that they cut the learning curve for you. They cut a lot of the trying to figuring it out yourself. So yeah, I've always just had I like to say some pretty okay time management skills. I've definitely brushed up on a lot more skills
Pretty
recently.
okay. Pretty
Yeah.
okay time management skills. Good, good. I'm gonna add that one to my Rolodex.
Yeah.
Nice,
I
nice.
feel like I could always do more. And I'm a little hard on myself, so I'm always trying to find a different way to just be a little bit more efficient. Um, but basically that was the start. I wanted to just not being a place that was so competitive and
Hmm.
continue to
Hmm.
get outbidded. And I thought the best way was to scale up.
So by scaling, how many single family homes did you have in your portfolio at that point?
So I never really liked single family.
Or were you
One tenant
primarily
moves out.
flipping? What was your you said you were in single family,
Mhm.
you had influence from your dad growing up working on houses. I guess the better question is what specifically were you doing with single family? Were you doing flips? Were you doing wholesaling? Were you buying and renting? How Airbnbs? What were you doing?
Yeah, so it was long-term holds. We'd
Okay.
buy like duplexes, triplexes, quads, and that's what we liked. We liked the more tenants having under one roof, and we just saw that hey, we get multiple streams of incomes, right? Different rents, different residents in there, and it kind of a little bit less risky than just having one tenant under one roof.
Okay. And so when you say we, you had mentioned your dad earlier.
Hmm.
Is that you, your dad, your mom? It was a family
Yeah.
operation? Okay.
Hmm.
And have you guys all moved into the multifamily space? Have you really taken the lead on that? How has that played out for you?
So I took the leap, and I didn't tell them what I was doing, and I was nervous. I was nervous telling them about it, to be completely honest. As soon as we closed on the first property, um, my girlfriend, she's like, you need to tell them what you accomplished. It's a huge accomplishment, and this was
Hmm.
one of your goals. You closed on 133 units outside of Chicago with partners, so it's a
Hmm.
first of many firsts. So we went to a nice little steak dinner, and I told them, and I don't think they truly comprehended the idea of it, but they had multiple questions. And at the end of the conversation, they just said, "Hey, we might not completely understand, but it looks like you're doing well. We're proud of you." And we still kind of talk about it and answer a lot of the questions that they have.
So I'm envisioning you take your girlfriend out to this nice steak dinner with your parents, and you kind of got this nervous like aura too, and yeah, hey, I got to tell you guys something, and they're probably thinking, I mean, you're gonna tell them I'm engaged or I got a kid on the way, but no, your icebreaker, your nervous moment was I bought an apartment complex, which is
Yeah.
huge. That's a big deal. That is something that needs to be celebrated. But I want to hang out in that space. I want to go back. So in your bio, you mentioned that your parents are first generation migrants to this
Mhm.
country. Um, so tell me how that's kind of influenced this whole scenario. I imagine they probably came with little. They probably worked very hard. There's probably a fair amount of risk involved. I'm very interested in learning more about how your parents came and they did it to create an opportunity for them and their children. And here it is. I mean, you've had to work very hard for that. So tell us more about that journey and how that's influenced you.
Yeah, it's influenced me dramatically. I did so. Kind of take it back to my childhood days. I wouldn't see my father in the morning, and I would see him very late. He'd wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning, go work his 9 to 5 at a manufacturing company. Thereafter, he would go and manage the properties himself. So
Hmm.
he was more of the kind of single person, tackling everything. He knew everything about real estate, and how to fix pretty much majority of everything that kind of came up. So that's what I grew up around. And he'd come home, eat dinner, we'd talk for a little bit, he'd go to sleep, and then kind of rinse and repeat. On the weekends, we'd go as a family and kind of help out with all the properties, and talk to all the residents. My mother, she worked part-time jobs, took care of my brother and I. There was two of us, and she was the salesperson. She sold everything.
Hmm.
Gold, art, cosmetic, everything you can possibly think of. And she just had very great people skills. So any issues or anything that kind of came up with our residents, She was the one kind of in the forefront there, making sure that everything was taken care of. So that's kind of what I grew up around. It was very, hey, let's tackle it together, right? There wasn't no conversations of, hey, larger properties, right? Everything in house, everything we do ourselves. We manage it down to the penny, and things that just felt a little bit more safe. Um,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
that's why I was a little nervous. It was we have a property management company. We have partners. It's out of the out of the state here.
Uh-huh.
I can't go and just fix something. I'd have to jump on a plane and get down there.
So there was I'll share with you, my wife she's first generation, and we've had the conversation multiple times, is that she's way more focused on like the stability, and something that's a little more safe. And so we have these conversations about investing, especially, right? I live in California. I invest in Texas. It's a couple thousand miles away, 1,500 miles away. And there's more risk that's involved there. So, so I was thinking that's what it might be, is that you're going from something that is known, it's stable, hey, this works, it puts food on the table, why are you messing with it, to like, hey, I've got this crazy idea. I'm going to go do something I haven't done before. There's a fair amount of risk to it. I'm going to work with partners that I know pretty well, but this is far away. And so that really
Yeah.
was for you. There was this amount of risk, and it was a little bit different than what you've been taught. And is that really what the potential hesitation was, and what's going to happen when I share with my parents?
Yeah, exactly. Because it was, you know, we understood this space. It was a safe bet. Obviously, real estate is, there's certain degrees to risk, um, but it was a safer bet. And for me, it was just getting that knowledge to minimize that risk, and I felt very comfortable once I, armed myself with the knowledge and the people around me.
Awesome. Well, with that, let's talk a little bit more about this deal. So I mentioned at the beginning, it's a $13 million property. It's 133 units. It's in Arlington. So you live in Chicago area.
Chicago.
You probably didn't have $13 million in your bank account to go buy this property. How did you find this deal, and what does it look like to buy a deal like this? Tell us about this deal and how you actually got into it.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I mentioned, I joined a bunch of different masterminds, different coaching programs, surrounded myself with the people that I wanted to become and, one day partner with. Um, and, for me, is just that genuine connection with people, having those kind of, relatable conversations, but very stimulating conversations around business and growth, and just getting to the place where I'd like myself to be in the next 2, 3, 5 years.
Hmm.
From that came a lot of different conversations with people, a lot of networking, and uh, I say we because I have two partners. I joined a mastermind, the initial one. We partnered up. We had same synergy, same mindset. When we said we were going to do something, we set out and did it. And I really looked for people that when they say they're going to do something, they do it. Obviously, there's always obstacles that happen, but I think that's when you can really see people's character.
Hmm.
So I just kind of looked for that. In my professional career, I did a lot of hiring, training, developing. At one point, I managed a team of almost 100 people, and being able to kind of pick people out whatever the goal was, um, match people's strengths to weaknesses, and was very successful. Uh, so I kind of played the same role in this capacity. Came across a few individuals that, at the time, individuals, now partners, but we really just meshed. And, they talked about the possibility of partnering. I said, hey, I need to go see you guys. I need to meet you guys in person.
Hmm.
Spent a couple of days down there. We went to a couple conferences.
So
We,
these are people that
um,
you had met through networking events, virtual networking
correct.
events, is what it
Yep.
sounds like. Okay. So
Yep.
I'm gonna take a moment here while we're talking about this deal. So when you're looking to structure a deal, you got this through syndication, right?
Correct.
So a syndication is where you put money into the deal, but well, there's basically money comes from a few different sources. So at the bank, you're getting a loan, they put in the most amount of money. The general partners, the people who structure the deal, they're going to put some money into the deal. They got to secure the deal. They got to put the hard money down on the deal. You got to pay the attorneys. You got a number of fees you've got, and then another large portion comes from investors. And that's how the deals are structured. But when you're looking at these deals, it is, first of all, I want to point out, it is not most people don't do this alone. It's a team sport. Would you agree?
No, definitely.
So
Definitely.
on your team, you need a number of people. So you've got people, you have like someone who does underwriting or the deal hunter, right? And maybe the deal hunter is someone who's boots on the ground and they're finding the deals, and you got someone who can do underwriting. Then you need someone who can do some asset management. You need someone who has that can be a key principal or net worth and liquidity, who can sign on the loan. And there's a few other roles in there, but so the reason why I pause right there is you're in Chicago. Most people who are doing these syndication deals, they don't invest in Chicago, right? Do you know anybody that's doing a syndication of a purchasing apartment complexes in Chicago?
I know a few actually.
Okay.
Um, is it my first pick? No.
No, it's not, right? It's geographically, it's probably not your first pick.
Yeah,
So I think that's an important part of the story. You had to get educated, you had to learn about the different roles, and you had to pick, how am I going to add value? What is my role going to be? And then once you knew that, you had to find people who would complement these other roles that you're looking for, right? So you
exactly.
found a couple people that you had that synergy with. So synergy is not like, hey, you're a cool dude. It's, I can underwrite. You can be boots on the ground. You can do asset management. So for the people that are listening, I want to point that out, that these groups, like Eddie's saying you join, they teach you these things. They teach you, here's the important pillars that you need, not only how to find a deal, but the people that you need on your team. So Eddie, what's your role in finding a deal in this particular deal you guys have down in Arlington?
So this one, it was capital raising.
Okay.
And I just want to say, you wrapped that up beautifully. Um, as far as strengths, right? Our team of three, we're deal sourcing, we're underwriting, and we're raising equity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Our partners down in Dallas Fort Worth, we have someone who's been in construction. I mean, altogether about 50 years of construction experience. They're boots on the ground. They're doing the asset management. They're the ones, signing on the loan. So as far as like, hey, we need more deals and we need equity. Hey, we need people that can, manage the property, teach us how to do it, actually be local, sign on the loan. So it just kind of, you know, we combine forces and it's been working very well.
Yeah, awesome. So tell me a little bit about this deal that you got into. So you have you can have, when you get into a deal, you can have something that's called like a yield play, or you can have a value add. A yield play is going to be big, operationally, there's efficiencies you can improve, or value add is, I'm going to go renovate a bunch of units, I'm going to add private backyards. So tell us about this deal, and help the listeners understand how you can find a deal and force appreciation on a deal. Because that's a huge piece of this, right? It's not just, it's different than single family home, because single family homes is like, I can buy a house and I can put $500,000 into restoring a house, but it doesn't mean I've increased the value, because if the comps only sell for 150,000, that's all my house is worth. An apartment complex is different. So tell us about your deal and how you guys looked at it and how you're going to add value.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a great point there. So to talk a little bit about the deal, this is 133 units in Arlington, Texas. We're less than a mile away from the AT&T Stadium. Also, Texas Live is around the corner. We have a huge memorial hospital a few blocks away, and then the University of Arlington is also down the block. So as far as location, we're talking, from my point of view, like a B plus A, right?
Mm-hmm,
We're
mm-hmm.
downtown, pretty much Arlington. The value add here, and I'll share a little bit of kind of uh the story of the property. First came onto market at about 15 million. I want to say maybe a year and a half ago.
Hmm.
Um, it went under contract and it then fell out because that team wasn't able to close on the deal. So we hear about this a little bit in residential. Usually it's because, people are they can't get the correct financing or they don't have all the funds, right? Kind of similar deal here. One of the, I say, caveats to multifamily is the relationship with the broker and the ability to close. So when it fell out of contract, there are a few other groups that were a little above us as far as offer price, ultimately awarded to the team, to our team, because of that pre-existing relationship and the ability to close. So we're able to snag it from, the on-market pricing was 15. There was another team coming in at around like 14, a little under 14, and ultimately we closed on it for 13 million. So there is some value add, and to kind of touch on what you shared uh, on the residential game, you kind of just explained that very well. On the multifamily aspect of it, I look at it more like a business. The more that you can generate, more income that you can generate, and that's either increasing the revenue coming in as far as rents or other income, or decreasing the expenses, right? Therefore equates to the income. The more income that you make, the higher value your property is going to be worth. So as far as the value add goes, what we're looking to do is update about 40 of the units.
Okay.
Um, they were severely under marketed. It was just operationally not being managed how it was supposed to. There was a lot of delinquency going on. Um, Under market rents for about 180, and that's
Wow.
just on
Okay.
market without actually going in there and making updates. So from what we're seeing is going in there, obviously the new flooring, a lot of the cosmetics, right? So countertops, new sinks, light fixtures, plumbing fixtures, making those updates, updating the curb appeal. And what that means is just making sure that when you get to the property, it looks like a place that you actually want to live in. There's not trash all over the sidewalk or in the entrance. Um, there are a few updates that need to be done to the roofs, and
Hmm.
that is
Hmm.
something that we took into consideration and we have in CapEx. So for whenever that needs to get swapped out, we have the funds allocated just specifically for that. And then also take a look at other income. So, pet rent, taking a look at reserve parking, washer dryer hookups. And a lot of these things are just kind of more of a variable and kind of depends on the tenants, right? You can't say, hey, we expect to have 20 dogs here and this is how much pet rent we're gonna get.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those weren't things that we accounted for in underwriting. We wanted the things that we knew we can get. And we came in kind of, I believe from a conservative standpoint, below under market rent, still having that 2% as far as the operational standpoint goes, the expense ratio goes.
Hmm.
So we knew there was a lot of work going in that needed to be done, and ultimately, there were some hurdles, but we closed on it, and it's been a huge learning opportunity knowing what goes into a property of this size.
All right. So I think it's a good opportunity to transition into the group that you joined, right? You said you started educating
Mhm.
yourself. Like, where can I get this information? You started doing a bunch of networking. You mentioned that you started with single family. As I'm listening to you, there's a lot you're talking about that has nothing to do with single family, right? And there's opportunities. You're talking more now like a business owner than someone who has some single family homes. Like, oh, I've got to go fix a roof because it's leaking. You're talking about pet rent. You're talking about washer and dryer hookups. I don't know if you mentioned it, but like you can do internet contracts. So it becomes much more strategic. You're looking at like line items on the balance sheet. But they didn't, you a lot of information exists out there on the internet, but like from a structured teaching you, that's where the value add huge is when you get into these groups. And so you joined a group called Multifamily Mindset, correct?
Correct.
So tell us what is multifamily mindset? How did you join, and what type of education do they provide?
Yeah, so it was a like I mentioned, a kind of like a coaching program. Uh, I actually went to they had a 1 day event here in Chicago, and it was around that time when I started taking a look at multifamily. Like how you mentioned, when you go on the internet, you're gonna see things that conflict with each other, telling you, "Hey, do it this way, do it that way. This is right, this is wrong." So I was a little conflicted. So I said, "Hey, let me go somewhere to an actual webinar, hear from people, and see what their strategy is." So I went to a 1 day event, and from there, they have a presentation. They share, "Hey, if you want to become a part, we have a 3 day kind of conference." And that weekend that they were going to have here in Chicago, we were actually, my girlfriend and I were actually going to be outside of the country. And I remember walking outside saying, "Hey, this isn't going to work." Stop myself, walk back in. I'm like, "I want to make this happen. How do I make this happen?" So I asked, "Hey, I can't make it this weekend. What are the other options?" They have them in separate cities on other weekends. And I said, "Am I really going to drive or travel to another city?" I think the closest one was Cincinnati. Never been there before. So I walked out and I was ready to leave. Then I heard someone say, uh, I'm trying to remember what he said, word by word, but he said, it never seemed, the dates never seemed to line up, something along those words. And I said,
Hmm.
"I'm not going to let that hold me back." So I called my girlfriend. I told her, "Hey, we're going to Cincinnati on this weekend. Are you okay with that?" She's like, "Okay, you're calling me all of a sudden. What's going on?" I'm like, "Hey, we're going to a conference that I need to pay a couple $1,000 for and to learn. So we're you know, come join me."
Canceling our vacation plans, and I'm gonna go spend this money on an educational seminar. You
Yeah,
like to drop
exactly.
these bombs, right? You take these like emotional bombs and you just drop them with your family or girlfriend. That's exciting. It's gonna be very exciting hanging
Exactly.
out with you. Yeah.
You're starting to catch how I kind of
Yes,
operate
yes,
here a little
yes.
bit. But she said, "Hey," she supported me and she said, "All right, let's go. If this is something that you want to do, right, then, obviously, let's make the time, know how much it is." And we jumped on a flight. After coming back, we went down there, huge seminar, ultimately pulled the trigger on signing up. And when you sign up for one of these, it isn't a couple thousand, um, or a couple hundred. So it is a commitment. As you'll probably see here in the background, I got 2 degrees, the
Hmm.
most
Hmm.
expensive pieces of paper I've ever paid for. And how I see it is that, education, is very important. If I paid for these to go to a 9 to 5 and not even guarantee myself a route to become a millionaire, right? Um, I That's just how I kind of viewed it. I Prior to educating myself about this, I thought, banks and millionaires own these multifamily properties, and that's partly true. But people starting off can also, own them, and the education piece was huge. My parents instilled just education, knowledge, talking to people, having that network, is huge. So ultimately, pulled the trigger. I joined the program, and what that entails is they teach you everything from A to Z, as far as the lingo, how to get started, how to look for the deals, where to look, how to kind of structure this, how to market yourself,
Hmm.
what is it that you need to be looking for and asking for. And we had some coaches as well, and how to underwrite, when you look at the residential side. You don't you'll most likely never get a spreadsheet with these are the expenses. It's just,
Right.
hey, you need to kind of know how to do it yourself. Here, it's like a business. There's line items for everything.
Well, you're buying and selling businesses. It just happens to be an apartment complex, right? I mean, that's the reality of it.
Exactly.
The beauty of that is everybody needs a place to sleep at night. The affordability gap between, owning a home and renting, it's higher and higher every year. So you've done something really smart. You said, I spent a lot of money educating myself on a degree. I can spend a lot of money educating myself on how to do something a lot of people don't know how to do. I mean, it's a beautiful decision, and I think a core underlying lesson everyone can take away from there is you were walking away, but you made the decision right then and there. It's all about mindset. You said, you know what, like I'm gonna do this for myself. Yeah, I might be missing out on a weekend that I had already planned, but for me to get where I want to in life, the only way that's going to happen is if I invest in myself. That's basically the conversation that you had in your head as you're walking away. Like, I got to invest in myself. If I invested all this money in these degrees, why would I not invest that into someone who can teach me something very specific to make a lot of money where I'm in control? So like your mindset is huge there. I think it's a really important lesson because I've been in this for a number of years and I've seen people come and go. Not you, Eddie, but as a person, I feel like you're kind of your own worst enemy. It's really easy to be like, I can't do this, or oh, it's so easy for other people. But at the end of the day, like if you just make a decision that I'm gonna do it, then you just keep chipping away at it. I mean, it can happen, and that's what's beautiful about it. I love your story. Um, I mean, what's it? I could just see you walking out and being like, "What am I thinking here?" And then to be able to call your girlfriend and be like, "Sorry, I've got to cancel plan." This says a lot about who you are, your level of commitment. So, kudos to you. How long after you joined that group, Multifamily Mindset, until you got into your first deal?
Oh man, so much longer than I expected, and
What I would say, when did you join the Multifamily Mindset group?
I want to say sometime in 2021.
Okay. Okay.
It's been some time, and it took me a little over a year to get into the first deal. A lot of hiccups, a lot
As an
of
LP, as a limited partner, as a general partner?
as a GP, as
Okay.
general partner. And we had opportunities to invest. I'm that type of person that if I'm going to put my money somewhere, I need to know the in and out of everything
Yeah.
and make sure that hey, this we're there's some hedges and that we're conservative. So I made the ultimate decision of educating myself to a point where I'm going to take on this first deal, and then I'm going to invest in my first deal because I want to be a factor in making sure that we are successful. But then also just the knowledge behind it. Even in the stock market, right? Like I feel like a lot of us just kind of throw money and it feels like gambling. We need to
Yeah.
do a little bit of research prior to that as well. So this is the type of person that I am. I like to do some research, really dig in deep and jump in, with both feet and everything I've done. So, and I think it's more of the analysis kind of tech background that I have. But it took me about a year. There were a lot of learning lessons, a lot of frustrations to everyone listening out there. I've thought about quitting more times than I thought. And it was super competitive as well, where people are coming in with hard money. People are super optimistic about the market, projecting 4, 5, even 6% rent growth, and we all kind of know what happened there, right? So, the market was very, very frustrating. I think right now is a perfect opportunity for people to really take advantage while a lot of people are on the sidelines and it's
Yeah.
not as competitive because everyone is still uncertain about the market. But if you come in super conservative, I think you're ultimately going to beat everyone out who's been on the sideline.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. If there's a time, in my opinion, to get into the market, like if you're on the sidelines, if you're like, I'm gonna wait till things turn, I think you're going to wait too long. I think, if there's an opportunity to get in now, the next 6, 12, 18 months, while the market's still, it's not choppy. In my opinion, it's finally stabilized. I mean, there's talks about it, a rate's going to go up, a rate's going to go down, but it's way more stable than it was. Any movement now is going to probably be very slow when it comes to rates. And sellers, anybody who bought at the peak, I think has finally realized nothing's going back up really quick. So they've come to a realization of where the market's at. Um,
Mhm.
so in my opinion, properties were overvalued. And that's come down drastically. There's a nice reset. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, I think it's a fantastic time. The inventory is not flowing crazy like it was, but it's starting to pick back up. The inventory is starting to pick back up. And yes, it is competitive. But I agree with you. I think now is a great time to start getting back in. So if you're on the sidelines, reach out to Eddie. He'll talk you off the sidelines to get you onto the field. But yeah, I agree. I think right now is a really good time to get into that. So advice to anybody, right? We're talking about if you're on the sideline. So there's probably some people listening to this who are thinking, man, I can totally relate to Eddie. I've got some single family stuff I've been doing. I like it. I don't really make a ton of money doing it. Um, but I really want to get into multifamily. It sounds great. What advice would you give to somebody who's like just starting to get into this space right now and thinking about going into multifamily?
Honestly, I would ask how active they want to be. And that's one of the questions that I always ask people that come to me and say, hey, like, I've seen your journey. This is where you are. I want to be where you are. I ask them, how active do you want to be? Because maybe if you are in that, you're that busy professional, maybe it makes more sense from a an investing passively standpoint. If you're looking to get in as a general partner and actually, uh, you know, control the deal or be part of the deal and kind of figure out how to put it all together and help lead it, um, I would say, what are some of your strengths? My strengths have been, coming from a tech background. I've had nearly 10 years in sales and in the consulting space as well. So project management. So a lot of these things I factored into multifamily and started with acquisitions, raising equity, and then now getting more on the operational standpoint. Also joined another mastermind there from the asset management standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
because my goal is to understand the business from A to Z, and being able to provide the opportunity to people that haven't had this opportunity before or don't know that exists, right? So being able to kind of structure it from A to Z, learn the ins and out of this business. But if you're on the sideline, I say, nothing worth having comes easy. You got to make some sacrifices. And however that looks like, you just need to make the jump. I also say for those that, are in this industry or have thought about investing, if you can make the deal work at a 6 or 7%, you can make the deal work at a 4 or 5%. Potentially, not that I'm projecting that's what interest rates are going to be in the future, but if
Mm-hmm.
they do come down, we're not going to be at the high sevens, right? Or the high
Yes.
sixes.
Yes. Yeah.
And the last thing I will say is network. Go out there, meet people, go to your local meetups, follow, everyone and anyone on social media. I spent a lot of hours listening to audiobooks, reading books, podcasts, joining webinars, traveling to different conferences. I think Q1 of this year, I went to maybe 6 or 7 of them. Um, and then now focusing more on local meetups here in Chicago
Mhm.
while it's getting nicer out. Uh, but just putting yourself out there and just kind of talking to people, you're gonna see, you know, you're gonna get inspired, and I think that'll convince anyone to make the leap.
So I hear a lot of what you're talking about there is so you get the mindset piece.
Mhm.
Um, it's big decision. If you're gonna do it. Because here's the reality. Anybody that's listening, if you can't really do this half-ass. You need to make the decision because the people you're going to be up against, they're people who are working hard. They're people who are sharp. They're people who've taken the time to educate themselves. You're going to get out of it what you put into it, is what I heard you say.
Exactly.
The other thing there, and I think this is glazed over far too often, is your balance there, your daily routines, right? You have created a lifestyle around where you want to be. So tell us about your routine, your daily routine and your work-life balance because you're doing a lot. You don't have kids yet, but there's a commitment there. So how do you go about structuring your days so that you can do all of these things?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I'm not where I want to be yet, but how my routine looks like is I'm up at 4, close to 5 in the morning every morning. Uh, kind of just check over emails, check over my day, what it looks like. Um, I think huge for me is going to the gym and being active. So I get to, get out of there clear headed, already have a quick win. And
Mhm,
that really sets
mhm.
my day.
So get your
Like I
energy high early on, get that good feeling early on, and just ride that wave all day.
Exactly, exactly. And then thereafter, I take a look at, I write my top 3 things to do every morning. These are the top 3 things that I need to knock out. I found myself that I have a ongoing to-do list, and my girlfriend always gets mad. She's like, "You need to get more organized. You need to get more organized," and she helps me with that because I try to tackle way too many things at one time.
Hmm.
So I pick out the top 3, I tackle those that day, and it's really just like the small wins that just compound. So as long as you're in that high energy, right? A lot of what I also started doing, early in the mornings is taking very cold showers or doing cold plunges. Help with stress, help with just the mindset overall. Just I'll say one book that really, and I'm a little everywhere right now because there's so much that
All
I
of it
got to
all of
throw
it
out.
ties in. Yeah.
All of it
Uh
ties in.
Yeah, because I know for me, I do a lot of the same. It's like you get up, I mean, you've been asleep for 6, 7, 8 hours. You got to kind of
Yeah,
shake that off, and then take advantage of those opportunities. And so, yeah, I was going to ask you, like, is there books you read, podcasts you listen to? Because it sounds like all of that is like feeding into who you are, that person that you're becoming.
exactly. And I'll share. I'm a huge, huge reader. Whenever I'm driving or anything like that, I have audiobooks. So the ones that I recommend as far as mindset goes, it's David Goggins. Can't Hurt Me.
Hmm.
That is a
Hmm.
huge one. As soon as I started reading that book, and there's those times that and this is everyone. Those times when you just don't want to do something, or you don't want to get up, or you're like, oh, I'll leave it for tomorrow. Just listening to his voice, how he says things, what he says, it's just like if he can go through all this and endure all of this, I can get up for like 10 minutes, stop being lazy and just knock it out.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So that's one huge book that influenced me. The other one is Buy Back Your Time. So as far as like time management and how I kind of structured my days, I did a lot of auditing. I figured out what are the more kind of higher value things that I need to knock out. So continuing on with my morning, check CRM, check my calendar, my to do list. What do I have planned? And I really live by my calendar. So getting all
I
the
gotta interrupt really quick. I tell
yes,
my wife, she says, "Hey, did you remember we have this going on?" I'm like, "If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist." And I tell her I live by my calendar. If it's important, if it needs to get done, it's got to go on my calendar. Because like you, and I know a lot of people, that are doing these, that you got a lot of ideas going on, and if you gotta have a place to park them because to try to shove them all in your brain and like hold on
yeah.
to them doesn't work. Like I'm like, it goes on my calendar. I'll do it Thursday at 10 a.m. So yes, I live and die by my calendar.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like it needs to be on the calendar. I've always had it for work. I've always been really great at managing kind of work and even like some of the rental properties, but just in kind of my everyday life or just kind of some engagements, I wasn't as organized. So my girlfriend also kind of came in and helped me with that. So now it's like if we are going to dinner with friends, it's from this time to this time. I gotta wake up early to knock this out. I need to go check on properties. I need to go review some LOIs. I need to, and everything's kind of in there. But you gotta have the intention of when work is work, you gotta do the work, but also having those times for family, for friends, for your loved ones, and taking that into consideration and taking, the breathers or the steps back to self reflect. So, like talking about the calendar, I live and breathe it. So I'd say those two books were kind of instrumental with getting me to a point where I can manage so many things, not feel as overwhelmed, and knock out some quick wins and do it again tomorrow.
That's awesome. It sounds like you've been able to take a lot of your personal background, that corporate background, and incorporate that with everything you've learned. The other thing I want to point out is that your partner, your girlfriend, um, or for people listening, your wife or whoever that is, that's a big piece of this because you're going to be like Eddie's doing. It's a lifestyle decision if you do this, whatever it is you do, whether any business, but it's a lifestyle decision. So finding someone who is very supportive of that to even help you like you have Eddie, I think is also a huge as well. So that's also going to be, it can be very tough or it could be much easier. You've got that right partner. um Eddie, I really want to thank you for your time today, all of your insights. I'm super excited for you, this deal you've got, everything you've been able to accomplish, where you came from. I'm sure your parents are extremely proud, whether they understand all the nuances. I mean, for you to be able to go to them and say, hey, check it out, I bought this, $13 million apartment complex that I'm managing, and I'm still a, working professional. So, awesome, awesome accomplishment. You mentioned Epic Property Ventures is your business. How can people learn more about you if they'd like to connect with you?
Yeah, definitely. So they can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook. My name is Eddie Esparza, Esparza. I know a few people have a hard time spelling that out. But on Instagram and TikTok, you can find me on there as well. So first name Eddie underscore last name Esparza one. And feel free to follow me, connect with me. I also have a weekly newsletter if you want to subscribe on my website, which is epicpropertyventures.com. And I just share a lot of information about the market, just financial tips. I think kind of growing up where we did and seeing that we lived cent by cent and saving and getting to a point where now we're living a little bit more of a lavish lifestyle, or at least not as how we did before. uh, Investing was never really talked about. So I'm huge on investing, financial literacy. So you'll see that through my weekly articles.
Awesome. And then you guys also have a weekly webinar you do?
Yeah. So we have partners and us have a weekly webinar on Tuesdays, and it is on 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time. So it's on
What's
Tuesdays.
the name of
So
the webinar, and how can people find how to register for that webinar?
yeah, definitely. So for that is a cash flow Tuesday webinar. So it's Cash Flow Empire, and we have it every Tuesday. It's a live webinar. You can join, reach out to me. I can send you the registration link. And every week we have a new guest. We had your the we had Steven here. Pleasure having him on the podcast as well. And we just have different operators, lawyers, attorneys, accountants, anyone in real estate, specifically multifamily, share their journey, join live, ask questions, gain knowledge. We also have a weekly Thursday, 5 p.m. Central, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific on Thursdays on Instagram Live. And again, that topic just changes, on a weekly basis. We talk about investing, we talk about the markets, we talk about everything. And the whole point is to help provide value, give insights, talk about our journey without you having to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars.
To join one of those programs. The programs are so great.
Yes,
You're going to get
yes.
a lot of structure. But Eddie, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Anybody tuning in to The Real Deal Confessions of Real Estate Entrepreneurs, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Be sure to follow us for more great insights and tips. And we'll see you on the next show. Thanks. Thanks for tuning in to the Stephen Lee Thomas Show today. And if you found value in today's episode, then I have a favor to ask you. Please share it with friends, family, and anyone who might benefit from the insights we shared today. Also, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed the show. And if you aren't already part of our school community, then head on over to school.com/multifamily mastery hub and join today. And again, thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to connecting with you in our school community.